Welcome, I hope your coffee is warm. The most popular commander at this moment is the Ur dragon. Understandably so, because you can play any dragon you want in this deck, and dragons are the coolest. So if you want to build the dragon, he will be expensive. If you already have the deck and want an upgrade, you might spot some upgrades here, but let me know as well and I can make an upgrade video. The Ur dragon is an avatar, meaning he embodies everything dragons are. In fact, he's probably the father of all dragons. His roar brought forth dragon eggs like those of Nicobolas and Yugin, who of course then went on to make more dragons. Weirdly. And now, the Ur dragon helps us bring forth our dragons, making them 1 mana cheaper even if you have Yuri in the command zone. It's also a 9 mana 10/10 with flying, but of course you will need all 5 colors. More importantly, having Yuri on the battlefield means attacking with dragons will let you put a permanent from your hand onto the battlefield. And that permanent will be big because you are playing with big dragons. Like these ones. Atarka, the World Render, is a 7 mana dragon. It is flying and trample, but more importantly, once again, it says whenever a dragon you control attacks, it gains double strike until end of turn. And that's just one way that you can win with dragons. Of course, you can get in pretty easily with these big creatures with flying. They probably can't be blocked and you will just need a few dragons to win. Old Gnawbone is a 7 mana 7/7. Again, most dragons are really expensive, but this one also has a great ability, so take this with you when you're looking for your cards. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create that many treasure tokens. Basically good in any deck that ramps really fast, but here we will want to do that as well, and we love dragons, so it's only 6 mana in this case. Clouth, a really cool dragon, really aggressive one, says whenever it attacks, add X mana in any combination of colors, where X is the total power of attacking creatures. Now usually this will give you way too much mana, but in this case you need this amount of mana. So we will love the fact that, for example, with these 3 dragons out, you will get 17 mana and you will be able to spend them all on other big dragons. Of course, we will need a lot of ramp, so there is a lot of ramp in this deck. Decklist is in the description, by the way. The usual suspects, Cultivate of course, and cards like that are always good, but also I would say you need even more ramp. So Skyshroud Claim is a 4 mana card that lets you search for 2 force cards. You will probably need them. And a really cool one for dragon decks is Dragon's Hoard. Whenever a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, put a gold counter on Dragon's Hoard, and we will be playing a lot of dragons of course. Then you may remove a gold counter from it and draw a card, or you can add 1 mana of any color. So not an efficient piece of ramp in this case, but will draw you a lot of cards. So double duty, I love those kinds of cards. Now, attacking with dragons is one thing you could do, but it is probably pretty hard if you don't have protection and haste. So dragons have a clause built in, that is, when they enter the battlefield you will deal massive amounts of damage. For example, Lozan Dragon's Legacy is an uncommon. For 5 mana, a flying dragon as well, herself, says whenever you cast an adventure spell or dragon spell, Lozan deals damage equal to that spell's mana value to any target that isn't a commander. So meaning you can also hit face. Then there is Terror of the Peaks. You might know this one if you have been playing Draft, or something like that, but Terror of the Peaks is also pretty famous itself. It says, the last ability is the most important. It says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, Terror of the Peaks deals damage equal to that creature's power to any target. And dragons have massive amounts of power, so you will pretty easily win the game with this. And Dragon Tempest basically does the same. It says when a dragon enters the battlefield under your control, it deals X damage, where X is the number of dragons you control. So, okay, pretty different. Terror of the Peaks works with power per creature, but Dragon Tempest works with the amount of dragons you have. And of course, in this case, we will have a lot of dragons again. Now, I mentioned haste before, but we have a lot of haste in 5 colors. So, Tamara Ascendancy, 3 mana enchantment that isn't usually played in dragon decks, but I personally love it. It says creatures you control have haste. Simple. And whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. So it's also a card draw engine. Crashing Drawbridge is a 2 mana creature that is really undervalued still, but it's a common as well, so maybe it's not. It says that it can tap to give all of your creatures haste until end of turn. So basically all of your creatures have haste because, well, almost, because you will tap this and all of your creatures will have haste. Xenagos, God of Revels, 5 mana creature that gives 1 creature haste. We don't really mind most of the time because we won't be playing multiple dragons all of the time. Sometimes we will, and then you will already win, probably. But with Xenagos, you can already play 1 big dragon on turn 5, 6, 7, and then you can also double its power and double its power and give the amount of power to its toughness as well. But we only care about power, who cares about toughness? Also, there are many ways to make dragons cheaper. Moral Fun is one, it's really expensive itself as well, 7 mana, but then it says, choose a creature type, dragons. Spells of the chosen type you cast cost 1 mana of every color less to cast. It only reduces the amount of colored mana you pay. But as we are a 5 color deck, this will fit really well with the many expensive cards that we have. So for 7 mana, we can probably, with our commander, for example, already have a discount of 5 mana. Shadow in the Warp is another example, a 3 mana enchantment, so really cheap this time. It will give every first creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. And as we are already really happy with casting 1 dragon, this is a great type of discount. Dragon Speaker Shaman does the same for dragon spells, but it doesn't even have a condition, so it's pretty much better, but it is a creature. And we have a bunch of effects like this in our deck. As I said, we want to ramp, and if we get to the dragons, our plan is to already win. Now, free dragons, that's even better. Sneak Attack, for example, is a 4 mana enchantment that lets you pay 1 mana to put a creature card from your hand onto the battlefield. Then it gains haste, and you sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. But we don't care, we plan to win from the moment we play the dragon. Now, Smuggler's Surprise is a new one. It says a lot of things, but the second ability, well, the third after Spree, is add 5 mana to the cost of Smuggler's Surprise, and you may put up to 2 creature cards from your hand onto the battlefield. Meaning, you get to play 2 big dragons for 6 mana, and the dragons will already cost 7 mana, so it is already a discount. But then you get another 7 mana for free. Wow, that's a really good discount. Also, it has a bit of card draw and protection, so it does a lot. Next up is Descendant's Path. It is a 3 mana enchantment that says, at the beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. If it's a creature card that shares a creature type with a creature you control, so you do need a dragon on the battlefield already, but you may cast it without paying its mana cost. If you don't cast it, you put it on the bottom of your library. So you will need dragons on the top of your library, but sometimes you will be able to play a free dragon from the top of your library, and that's card draw and a free dragon. So you won't even know what's coming. Annie Joins Up is a new card that is really good as a removal piece sometimes, but also just the second ability is great in this deck. It says, when it enters the battlefield, deal 5 damage to a creature or planeswalker. So it is removal. But also it says, if a triggered ability of a legendary creature you control triggers, like the one from the Ur-Dragon, it triggers an additional time. And many dragons also have their own abilities, many legendary dragons. So this is a great double duty card. Frontier Siege is as well, but this time you have to choose. cons: at the beginning of each of your main phases, add 2 green mana to your mana pool, and we love ramp. But also it says whenever a creature with flying, or a dragon, enters the battlefield under your control, you may have it fight target creature you don't control. Now, not all dragons have flying anymore, but this is still a great fighting spell. It does need you to play a dragon after, so it has to stay on the battlefield, but then it will be great removal. And Kindred Dominance is a board wipe I love very much in this deck. Usually this card is not very good, but this time we will be ramping a lot. And it says choose a creature type, destroy all other creatures, and all of your dragons will survive. So you will basically be the only one with dragons on the battlefield, and you will win. Next up is a theme that is all about sort of card draw, and we have gotten a few really good ones in the last sets. Kozilek's Unsealing is a 3 mana enchantment that says whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value 7 or greater, which a lot of dragons are, draw 3 cards. Now, most decks don't really use this, but our dragons are really expensive and we will be able to do this. But we also have a bunch of 4, 5 or 6 mana cards with when they enter the battlefield with this enchantment on the battlefield. You create 2 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens, and those will be, for example, enough to pay for your mana tax. So great card all around for us. Orlessa, the Skill Singer, is also a dragon, a 2 mana 1/4, doesn't have flying. You may look at the top card of your library and you may cast dragon spells from the top of your library. So I love looking at the top of my library, it gives you a lot of information. And of course, playing dragons from the top of our library is a real surprise to anyone, like I said before. And Monstrous Vortex, also a big surprise, but 4 mana whenever you cast a creature spell with power 5 or greater, discover X equal to the spell's mana value. And our cards probably have 5 power or greater and probably have a big mana value. Then you get to discover X, meaning that you exile cards from the top of your library until you find a non-land with that mana value or less. So you will be able to cast a non-land card with a lesser mana value without paying its mana cost. Or you may put it into your hand, and I like that flexibility from Discover, the pretty new mechanic. And that was it for this deck. The Ur-Dragon will be very happy when you play him and its dragons. And let me know what you think about the dragon. And again, if you need more upgrades, let me know as well. Bye.